The Luminkey65 is a board that went under my radar for some time, about a year to be precise. But now that we've tested and tuned a viewer's bare bones on Twitch a few times, Luminkey finally sent over one of their refreshed pre-builts to take a look at for a formal review. No money changed hands, and all opinions remain my own, with no one having seen this content prior to upload. Luminkey65 comes in at around $180 as a pre-built, in our case with their new Astral switches and die-sub PBT keycaps, or as a bare bones for $140, with aluminum construction, copper accents and weight, and this very nice carrying case with everything inside. The rest of the extras include the usual suspects: a fancy braided coiled cable if you need something to get you up and running, wireless dongle, extra parts, standard issue cap and switch puller, required tools, and a quick start guide. You also oddly get 9 individual switch pads to target specific regions of your keyboard acoustically if you don't want to use the full foam kit but require it on certain mods. It's odd, but I kinda dig this inclusion. Construction of the board is robust and straightforward, with a dramatic angular block-on wedge side profile, more complex than its price might indicate. Normally, more complicated designs like these require more machining time to get right, though the reduced number of parts for this board plus the volume in which they're sold might have something to do with that as well. Anodizing is clean and even with a stupendously smooth finish. In our example, it's also a fingerprint magnet, so mine will basically always look cursed the second I even think about it. There's a copper accent in the top case surrounding an LED diffuser that sits over a section of the PCB that includes an array of small RGB lights to provide a further visual accent to the board, though it's got a fair bit of light bleed present with the polycarbonate plate and no foams. The copper external weight features aggressively chamfered edges, embellishments in opposing corners, and doesn't pass through to the interior of the case. All case fasteners are easily accessed from under the case and aren't hidden, making this more approachable to someone new to custom keyboards. Inside, you're greeted with a shockingly easy-to-use ribbon cable and the first wave of foams. The first layer has SMD cutouts and is thick enough that it's totally killing any bounce this board might otherwise have. The layer underneath is a super thin sheet that functions more as added insurance against shorting out the PCB on the case in the event you want to remove that case foam and still be mostly foamless. Underneath that is the aluminum battery cover, which also functions as a sort of internal weight and has an optional brass version, which I highly recommend for use with the polycarbonate plate, especially in foamless configurations. We also have a proprietary daughter board, so keep that in mind for long-term ownership. The gasket mounting system is plate-based and uses rubbery dumbbell gaskets at 8 different points along the edge of the plate, which get sandwiched between the case halves on closing the assembly and feature alignment nubs at the end to make sure everything lines up correctly. I'm happy to see no mounting points near the spacebar as well. When disassembling the board, I highly recommend you remove these and set them in a safe place until you're ready to reassemble, as they are quite fiddly when not installed in the case and will go flying into the hereafter if you aren't paying attention. On pulling the plate and switches, we're then greeted with the plate and PE foam. Both are well made, and both will be getting removed along with the case foams for our custom build, and we'll be replacing the stock plate with the FR4 model and using cherry clip-in stabilizers. Layout support for the 1.6mm PCB, when using an optional plate, is quite nice, including split backspace, 7U bottom row, step caps lock, ISO, and split left shift. Basically everything you could possibly want on a 65% layout. Heck, it's even got support for PCB mount stabilizers. But they force pre-built and bare-bones users currently to remain locked into just one layout with enforced plate mount Gateron stabilizers. To be clear, the stock stabs are fine, but to change layouts at all, you'd need to buy a plate and PCB mount stabilizers, since the different plates aren't compatible with plate mounts. The stock Astral switches feature a palm stem and bottom housing with a transparent polycarbonate top housing and a metal flake effect in it. Housing fitment's quite nice, so no need to film these. The stock lube feels mostly fine, and while we'll be using them stock for today's testing, at some point I plan to relube them and get them really dialed in. You have one extra switch that allows you to transition to a few different layouts, including ISO enter with a split backspace, split left shift, and 7U bottom row. I admit I kinda like these switches a lot and would really like for them to sell these a la carte so I can build a TKL with these. Now for those new die-sub PBT keycaps. They need some work. I actually really like the colorway, feel, overall construction, and included icon and novelty keycaps, but I'm not a fan of some of the legends, and the escape and enter keys, both using alpha base colors, it makes the color balance feel a little off. I also feel like the numro legends look a bit compressed, and my set unfortunately had a scratch in the backspace that doesn't come out, but thankfully it's not super noticeable. So then how does this board perform and sound? I'll give you some typing tests, one at stock, one with all the foams removed, and one with our custom configuration featuring GMK Micblog. So as we heard in the type test, this board is particularly bright sounding, even when we have all the foams installed. Removing all of them didn't necessarily make the board sound hollow, but it certainly sounded remarkably clacky, bordering on shrill in tone. Moving things over to the FR4 plate definitely helped shave a little bit off the top and emphasize some more of those mid-range and lower notes that you get out of a keyboard sound, but it's still a bit bright, and if we wanted to take things down a little bit deeper from here still, we could go with the brass internal battery cover, as well as transitioning from ABS to PBT keycaps. Without foam present, even the FR4 plate is pleasantly bouncy, leaving a rather comfortable typing feel that I could sit and type on all day. And in fact, I already have. As for the Astral switches, I really like them, and I feel like they just need a small tweak to the factory lube to be perfect. Heck, I'd even take them as is if it meant I could also buy them standalone. I love a good palm-on-palm bottom out. I feel like they need to refine this new keycap design. My recommends at a minimum would be to swap the base color of the escape and enter keys to black and add a keycap add-on page for the rest of the caps to support other layouts so you can actually carry this set over to one of the different plates and still have support for all of your layout options with the look you bought into in the first place. The Luminkey65 has a lot to like about it, especially once the board is fully built with the parts you prefer and considering the price of all models. The pre-built in a bubble, and assuming you don't change anything out, is a great quality board for users who like foamy boards and don't mind the standard layout. Even foamless, the board has a lot of merit, assuming you like a really clacky acoustic profile, and taking advantage of the different plate options and weight options allow this board to go deeper and more full with acoustics. I definitely wish the stock plate for the pre-built didn't enforce a locked layout and plate mount stabilizers. But at the very least, the included stabilizers are decent enough that if you like the polycarb plate and stock layout, you should be fine. The stock keycaps for the pre-built also need a bit of work for them to be at their best, but are otherwise well built, and the stock switches are really nice. There's a natural sort of give and take present with this board, and ultimately that's always going to be the tale of keyboards that go this inexpensive with the features and build quality this otherwise has. Minor foibles and quirks aside, and even a year after its initial release, Luminkey65 remains an awesome keyboard, and offering both a pre-built and a bare bones means there is something for literally everyone to enjoy at all levels of experience and desire to tinker and customize their keyboard. Take care of yourselves and one another, and I'll see you all in the next video.